This week on Africa Weekly, we meet the young people in South Africa who are fighting gun violence using the radio. And then we head to Ghana, where rubber is being used to boost the economy. But first, let's take a look at the stories that made the headlines this week. Health ministers in Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo have signed an agreement to fight the spread of the Ebola virus. The communiqué announces the intention to develop joint strategies for the prevention and management of Ebola, including monitoring, information sharing and vaccinations. And it's hoped the influence of this agreement isn't just limited to these two countries.
Le Rwanda et la RDC vont faire le plaidoyer, non seulement pour les deux pays.
Rwanda and the DRC will advocate not only for these two countries in the bilateral exchanges we have had, we are also doing it for the benefit of all of our peoples. As I have mentioned, the Republic of South Sudan, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi and Tanzania.
La République du Soudan du Sud, l'Ouganda, le Rwanda, le Burundi et la Tanzanie tout au moins.
3 people have tested positive for the virus in the Congolese border city of Goma, with 12 more people being tested for the deadly virus. Ebola response workers and security officials have been stationed at the border between the DRC and Rwanda to conduct checks on people moving across the busy frontier. Presidential hopefuls in Tunisia began registering their candidacies for Snap September polls after the death of 92-year-old leader Beji Caid Essebsi. 8 candidates, including media magnate Nabil Karoui, submitted their papers to the North African country's Electoral Commission. The media mogul was an active supporter of Essebsi's election in 2014 and has become the fiercest rival to the incumbent Prime Minister Youssef Chahed. Originally scheduled for November, the vote was brought forward to September 15th, following Essebsi's death in late July. In the Egyptian capital, Cairo, forensic teams have been investigating the site where at least 20 people were killed when a speeding car driving against traffic crashed into 3 others, causing a huge explosion. Egyptian officials have said the car was packed with explosives, with President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi decrying it as a terrorist incident. The Egyptian Interior Ministry said 17 terrorists have been killed, all of them reportedly members of the Hassam group, suspected of being behind the incident. People celebrate in Khartoum as Sudan's ruling generals and protest leaders reached a full agreement on the constitutional declaration, paving the way for transitioning to civilian rule. This comes after prolonged negotiations between Sudan's ruling military council and leaders of the protest movement, which toppled veteran leader Omar al-Bashir in April.
The agreement that has been reached today is a chance for a new beginning to take Sudan into the place it deserves, and it should open the door to the modern civilian future of Sudan that we have been looking for.
The Mozambican government and the ex-rebel group Renamo completed a long-awaited peace pact on Tuesday, signing a final deal aimed at ending years of conflict. President Filippo Nyusi and Renamo leader Osufo Mamad embraced after signing the landmark agreement at a ceremony in Maputo's Peace Square, witnessed by former presidents and regional and continental leaders. The pact, named the Maputo Peace and Reconciliation Agreement, brought the curtain down on marathon negotiations initiated by Afonso Dhlakama, the historic leader of the Mozambique National Resistance, who died in May last year. The remains of a British student who apparently jumped from a plane in Madagascar after opening the aircraft door in mid-air have been transferred to a hospital in the capital, Antananarivo. 19-year-old Cambridge University student Alana Cutland, who was on a research trip, fell from a light aircraft shortly after it took off from an airport in remote northwestern Madagascar.
And I therefore direct that she immediately withdraws.
A Kenyan MP was forced to leave the Parliament chamber after she brought her baby into the session. Zulika Hassan brought her 5-month-old baby to the chamber because of an emergency at home. However, she was ordered to leave by the House Speaker because the House does not permit strangers in the chamber.
This is my third baby in Parliament. I've never done this. I've tried really hard not to come with a baby. But today I had an emergency. So what was I supposed to do? Miss Parliament and miss my duties just because for a baby. So that's why I just came with her. I knew that I'd stay here for a while. And then later when my situation is better, I could. But if there was a room, a creche or a nursery here, I'd be able to then put my baby.
The topic of the day is the role of policy and how you can influence gun laws.
Jennifer Ngubeni is not just another radio announcer. She produces and co-hosts a radio show on Alex FM with other teenagers. They talk about gun violence and its effects on their lives. Alexandra Township, which borders South Africa's richest square mile, Sandton, is one of the roughest and most violent suburbs of Johannesburg.
With gun violence, it's something that people in Alexandra have tend to normalize, which is not a good thing. So us talking about gun violence actually helps make people realize and makes them gain conscious that it's not okay for someone to be killed with a gun.
According to Gun Free South Africa, between 18 and 21 people are killed by firearms every day in the country. Marianne, an activist for the organization, trains these young journalists. She teaches them how to target gun violence through their reporting and, down the line, change Alexandra.
Alexandra has a history of violence, and it's, some people call Alexandra Gomorrah, and that's not something one can be proud of. I mean, why are we being compared to Gomorrah?
Every week, Jennifer and her peers take to the streets of Alexandra and speak to people affected by crime in the community. These interviews are at the center of the 1-hour Saturday program, supported by Children's Radio Foundation and Gun Free South Africa.
We're only killing our society by keeping quiet about certain issues, and us talking about them, we're influencing other young people that your voice matters. I hate saying this, we're speaking for the voiceless. They're not voiceless, they just need a platform, and that's what we're doing. We're giving them a platform in order to voice their issues.
Since 2014, over 50 young journalists have been involved in the program called Bigger Than Life. As they continue to mobilize for gun-free zones in their communities, the skills they learn today could see them becoming the next big names in radio or advocacy in the future.
Dilapidated and forgotten, this tyre factory in Western Ghana could get a second chance at life. Sites like this could benefit from a Ghanaian government programme aimed at encouraging rubber production in a bid to diversify the country's economy and reduce its dependence on cocoa.
So rubber production is going to go up, and in due course, if we, with the authority, encourage them with good returns on their investment, more and more farmers will be adopting that. And that will mean that the rubber industry, a tire industry, and rubber product industry can survive.
With a factory and a massive plantation, the foreign-owned private company Ghana Rubber Estate Limited, or GREL, has been the market leader in Ghanaian rubber production for the past 50 years. GREL has an established history of helping get local farmers into the rubber business through loans and training. Thousands of farmers then sold rubber back to GREL, as it was the only buyer of raw rubber in the country. But in 2016, after an international depreciation of the price of rubber, some farmers started to sell their produce to other foreign investors.
The only way to establish the system, let's say, something working well, is a ban on raw material exportation.
But some rubber farmers fear the potential consequences of GREL re-establishing a monopoly in the country's rubber market, going back to a system that led to lower returns on their efforts.
The government must assist us not to make investors overusers. The rules of the game must be respected so that we all live in common.
The white sap that seeps from these tall trees is already an increasingly important part of Ghana's economy. $93.5 million worth was exported in 2017, up from $52.5 million the previous year. But the farmers whose livelihoods depend on its production will be keen to find out under what terms they will be able to sell their produce in the future, and who to.
Egypt has put on display the gilded coffin of Tutankhamun, which is under restoration for the first time since the boy king's tomb was discovered in 1922. The restoration process began in mid-July after the three-tiered coffin was transferred to the new Grand Egyptian Museum in Cairo from the Valley of the Kings in Luxor, southern Egypt. The golden coffin of the boy king will be displayed along with other Tutankhamun artifacts towards the end of next year, when Egypt's new mega museum is opened to the public. That's all from us at Africa Weekly. Until next week.